obviously I love the game of basketball. I mean, it's just more questions you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about myself. I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
That man right there, that awkward, robotic man right there is just completely taking over the NBA, and I'm going to put him in my conversation for the best player on the planet. Might be a little bold. We're going to get into that in a lot more detail later on with our special guest, who we'll see later on the back end of the podcast, but Kawhi Leonard right now, you cannot argue that this guy is just completely just taking over this Toronto franchise, just completely just putting the team on his back. Supporting cast has not been there, and he just brought this team to the NBA Finals. If they're going to compete with the Warriors is a whole nother debate that we'll get into again later, but you can't argue against what Kawhi has been doing and just the case that he's making to basically just get whatever deal he wants in any situation here come free agency. Again, with how good that he's carrying this Toronto team, it's really making an argument on if he might stay in Toronto. Obviously, this isn't something that should be focused on too much with him being in the finals, but this is just making this situation so much more interesting. The Raptors took a chance on him, brought him in on a one-year deal, trading their best player at the time in DeMar DeRozan, and Kawhi is just completely taking over this franchise. A guy I do feel bad for is that guy I mentioned, DeMar DeRozan, because, I mean, this was pretty much the same team, aside from getting Marc Gasol, who's another big piece, but this team was in the playoffs, trying to make playoff runs the last couple years with DeRozan in there, and they just simply couldn't get over the hump. I mean, LeBron being in the East at that time is obviously just another factor that we have to put in there, but DeMar DeRozan sitting at home right now and watching his franchise, his best friend Kyle Lowry, go into the NBA Finals with the guy that his franchise basically said, this guy's better than you. Like, at the end of the day, like, they just did the swap, Kawhi for DeMar DeRozan, and Kawhi is just clearly the better player, but just taking that franchise to the next level that DeRozan really couldn't do. So that's a guy that I feel for a lot. We're going to get into a lot more NBA talk, a lot more finals preview talk here on the back end of the show. But yeah, breaking news here. Just yesterday, as we're recording this, is when the Game 6 went final. Kawhi basically brought this team. They won it in Toronto, taking them to the NBA Finals. So just a huge topic, just huge overall performance, huge playoff run by Kawhi Leonard. And again, yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about it here later on. Again, we're going to get started talking about some of the previous Heated Sports articles. This is something that I really like doing just because I want to use this platform to kind of promote everything else that we're doing as a platform here for Heated Sports. So we have the website, we have weekly articles going every single week, so I'm just going to touch on a few of those here quick. Zach Henley, a guy you've seen on the podcast a lot here in the past, he put out an article last week on the Deontay Wilder boxing match. And even if you don't know who that guy is, you might remember the guy that basically made sports headlines saying that he was okay committing murder in the ring. Pretty much he made a lot of comments to the media saying that boxing is a sport that essentially it's okay, then it's perfectly legal if you want to kill the guy that you're fighting in the ring. And while he's not wrong, that's really not something that you want to bring out to the media, but Deontay Wilder is an up-and-coming, very talented boxer, and he's trying to make a name for himself. And in his most recent fight, in which those media interviews were taking place to preview that fight, he backed it up. I mean, he completely just knocked out within the first minute and a half of the fight. Was not a contest for him whatsoever. So Zach really dove in and gave a lot of details on that. So be sure to check that out if you want to get any more information. I really didn't highlight all the details as best as I probably could, but Zach really went in depth for that. Breaking news in the NFL, defensive tackle Gerald McCoy got cut by the Tampa Bay Bucks, the team that drafted him about 6-7 years ago. Kevin Eagleson, our main NFL guy, NFL expert, he put out an article on that. The Bucks cutting Gerald McCoy and pretty much replacing him a day later with Ndamukong Suh, another very talented defensive tackle. Pretty much more of a financial move. I mean, Gerald McCoy would have cost them a lot more money over the next 3 years than what they could have gotten out of Suh. Basically, they ended up signing him for a one-year deal. So cutting McCoy, freeing up some future cap space for this year, replacing him with, I would say, definitely an equally talented defensive tackle. Seems like a smart move, but a name that people weren't expecting to be cut by his team, Gerald McCoy. So he's scheduling a lot of visits, going to Cleveland. I think he already visited, planning on another visit with the Baltimore Ravens, which, me being a Pittsburgh fan in the AFC North, I would hate to see him going to either of those two teams. We'll have to wait and see. A lot of people are hyping up the Browns, and they're just going to keep hyping up the Browns even more if they get another huge splash in free agency with Gerald McCoy just being another huge addition to that defense. So that'll definitely be a scary team. I think they already are a scary team on paper, like a lot of people could agree with, but adding another big name like that's going to be really interesting and just really just have a huge impact right away for that up-and-coming team. Another article here that we had, again, Harrison Weaver, our main NBA expert, he put out an article this past week previewing the Warriors going to the finals for a 5th straight year. So we put the article out after they already swept the Blazers. So just talking about the Warriors being back without Kevin Durant and really just kind of going into their roots, just going back to their roots before the KD era started in Golden State. Really just making a huge impact in the West, really not changing anything. People were thinking that, okay, the Rockets definitely had a chance, KD goes down. Clearly wasn't the case. The Warriors are back, and if they, obviously I don't think they left, but I mean, a lot of people were doubting them, proving a lot of the doubters wrong, and I'm definitely picking them in the finals, whether KD comes back for Game 1 or if he's not even back at all. Again, some more details we'll talk about here a little later. Another article here we had was Pete Cassesi. Pete's been into the rotation here with us since the summer started a few weeks ago. He put out an article about longtime NFL veteran Chris Long announcing his retirement. So we're actually going to get him on the phone, a new aspect we're going to add to the show here. We're going to try to do a lot of call-ins every single week. So we're actually going to get our writer Pete Cassesi on the phone here now. We're going to get that set up. So we'll be right back, and we'll talk a lot about Chris Long. All right, so we have Heated sports writer Peter Cassesi here on standby. Pete, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing fine.
Good, man. So this past week you did an article on the beloved Chris Long, longtime NFL veteran, just recently announcing his retirement, finishing his career with the Eagles, so a lot of local listeners here will probably know that name a lot. Biggest thing for you being a diehard Philly fan, I'm just going to get right into it, man. Like, what do you think? What was the biggest impact you think Chris Long had for this team on the field and off the field, kind of going into that Super Bowl run a few years ago and just really just getting into that Philly atmosphere and really taking to it?
Well, to start off, I mean, off the field, he donated his entire 2017 salary. And it's not just his entire salary for one charity. For each week, it went to a different charity.
A different one each week?
Yeah, it was so impressive as to what that was off the field as to what he did. That was really impressive. On the field, what really helped was, that year, we were never really considered to be a contending team. Throughout the season, we were really, really hot. But then after losing Carson Wentz, we really lost, I guess, that magic. But then we kind of gained it back with Nick Foles on offense. But again, defenses are the ones that win games. And his experience in the Super Bowl the previous year with the Patriots, I think he really added that leadership and to guide Jim Schwartz's play calling and his ability to know what Tom Brady was going to do. I think that really aided to our success against that team.
Yeah, man, I'll say it. Like, it's pretty cool to see. I mean, Chris Long's been like a long-time veteran, been in the league for 10 years. Going back, people probably don't know, second overall pick back in 2008, played with the Rams for that first 7-year chunk of his career. Again, making an impact on that team as well, but just being more relevant. I mean, a lot of players, especially on the defensive side, kind of fall off towards the back end, but before the Eagles with the last 2 years, he had that 1-year deal with the Patriots. Also winning a Super Bowl with them and that comeback win against the Falcons had a big impact on that defense. And coming back to Philly those last 2 years, yeah, I mean, again, with age, you think the play style and just the overall impact they have on the field is going to decrease. But, I mean, Chris Long, it's been steady, it's been consistent, really living up to that Long name that he had with his dad, Howie Long, being an NFL great before him. Any other things to say, man? I mean, I know we really didn't mention him winning the Walter Payton Man of the Year in 2018. Obviously going along to just with how great he's been with the charity work and just working with a lot of charitable organizations, donating a lot of his salary. But as a Philly fan, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you're at least sad to see him go. But overall, I mean, what was your overall take? If you had one thing to say about Chris Long, one thing you're going to remember, what would it be?
I would say his character. His character being that, as I mentioned in the article, he united the locker room. There were plenty of games that, as much as we never replicated that 2017 season, his character with how he could, I guess you could say, influence the people around him to getting to 110% aided to people not hanging their heads in shame if we lost. He would get into people's heads and say, hey, look, we have another game coming up. Let's do it. Let's rebuild. Let's regroup. Let's win. And you know what? Not every Super Bowl team or playoff winning team is going to, go 16-0 or so on and so forth. He really was able to add that impact into the locker room. And then again with the Walter Payton Man of the Year, even J.J. Watt, the player who won the year before that, he even said that he thought Chris Long should have won that year as well. So it just shows you that with the Chris Long Foundation and how they help with underprivileged children in different countries around the world with the drinking water, military resources, and such, and education, it really shows you that he's a more than life type of guy, and that is the type of guy that you need on a team, because those people will see that, and if he needs something for the team, they'll do it, and it will obviously be for the better.
Yeah, man, I think that's really well said. I mean, Chris Long just being a consistent leader, I think, no matter what team he was playing for throughout his career. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for calling in. Again, Pete Cassesi is a weekly Heated Sports writer, and he actually edits a lot of the articles for us as well. So you'll see him on the podcast here coming up a good bit throughout the summer. But also, yeah, he's bringing us great content throughout each and every week, so he's dropping articles for us. So if you want to see the full article, you can check that out on our website. And Pete, thanks again for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, yeah, not a problem, man. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and transition here quick. We're going to get Zach Henley, another Heated Sports member, onto the podcast here now. So we'll be right back. Just stick with us here, and we'll get Zach on the podcast here.
Hockey, let's do that hockey.
All right, guys, we got Heated Sports' very own Zach Henley, very familiar to the podcast, so we're happy to have you back again. We're just going to hit on a couple very, very, two ends of the spectrum, two very interesting topics, but, yeah, very, very diverse is what I should say. So, first things first, hockey. We're going to talk about hockey, right? A sport that isn't really in the limelight, which it should be, because we're in the Stanley Cup now. Yeah. St. Louis Blues, Boston Bruins, two teams that are left. I know you and your brother, you said you've been debating a lot about this series, a lot about just overall the NHL playoffs in general. Again, I'm not the biggest hockey guy, so I don't have a lot of hearsay. I don't have a lot of opinions, but I'll just let it take over to you, man. Who do you think's winning the series? What's some stuff you got for us?
Well, I have the Bruins winning the series.
Yeah.
And just because they're obviously the better team. They know it. They have the experience. It seems like the Blues are never this far in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't think they've ever made the Stanley Cup final in general. Mm-hmm. The Bruins have a 7-game win streak in the playoffs right now. They just came off a sweep, so they've had a lot of rest. The Blues just beat the Sharks, so it's right off that. It's Game 7 victory, so it was close. And two players to look out for are Brad Marchand and Ryan O'Reilly. They're the two best players, and they exact same play type.
Really?
Yeah. So I think Boston takes it just because it's Boston.
It's Boston. Screw Boston.
Yeah, championship city.
That's my biggest thing. I mean, I'm all again, the little bit I've tried to keep up with the playoffs as much as I can. The Blues are just so interesting because since the second half of the season started, they just completely turned it around.
Yeah.
Just completely pushing their way into the playoff standings and then just making a run of it. I don't want to say it's a Cinderella story because they've earned it the back half of the season. They're playing well. But it's a great underdog type story. 'Cause, I mean, a lot of people are going to be picking the Bruins.
Yeah.
The Bruins are in the playoffs, in the Stanley Cup conversation every single year. I mean, I'm all for the Blues. Again, if I'm putting a significant amount of money on it, I'll probably go Bruins as well, just because they have the history, they have the experience, and I mean, I think overall, if you're looking at a talent basis, I mean, I think they're the more talented team. But I mean, talent's not the only thing that's going to win you the championship. I think the Blues have a legitimate shot. And but yeah, that's the team I'm easily rooting for. I could care less if I'm right about that prediction. I don't want Boston winning any more championships. They've had their share for the next decade, I think. So they're fine. The Blues, I think that's a great fan base that deserves a championship. I mean, either way, this is a great playoff run for them. But yeah, how many games? What are you thinking?
I think it's gonna be a sweep. Honestly,
sweep.
I
Four
think, honestly,
4 games, man. No shot.
I don't know. I just
I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm definitely
Maybe one game, maybe
what,
5
all
games.
right, a gentleman's sweep. All
Yeah.
right, what? Either way, I'd like to see a more competitive series. I think
I
it
would like
definitely.
to
I
too.
think it will be. Give me 6 games. Give me Boston in 6 is what I would say for that. Any more numbers? Any more players you got to shout out? I mean, you name like the main 2 guys there.
No, yeah, that's about it, honestly. But like, if you just think of hockey, you don't think of St. Louis. I
No,
think it's great
not
for
at
the
all.
league in
Yeah,
general.
like that's like I mentioned with like the Pelicans, like New
Yeah.
Orleans with Zion. I mean, like that's like we've been talking like with a lot of the Zion stuff. Like that's like a franchise that like could really use like this is like really great for that franchise. Haven't had a lot of love lately.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that's going to be huge for them. But
Yeah.
I mean, either way, it's going to be great to see. We had a question submitted a few weeks ago, and like they asked me if the Blues could make a
Yeah.
run at the playoffs.
He's my
I'm like,
brother, yeah.
was it your brother?
Yeah.
I'd say I thought it was. I didn't want to confirm that or anything, but he like, yeah. I mean, they do clearly.
I
Like,
didn't-
here they are.
At that point, I didn't think they were going to make a run.
No,
for it,
and
just
I
'cause-
shouted out the Hurricanes. Like I thought Carolina was
Yeah.
going to be the other team that
They
was going to
sucked the
cause some
freaking
problems, and
Capitals, yeah.
and they fell off a little bit. Bruins took care of that half of the bracket. So, I mean, be sure Stanley Cup playoffs
tomorrow,
being-
yeah.
It's unfortunate timing because it's overshadowed every single year by the
Because of
NBA
NBA,
Finals. NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs are literally happening at the same time, round for round. So it's unfortunate for hockey because in general, hockey's not the most popular sport in the U.S. But I feel like if it was at a different time, or like playoffs started
Like earlier.
after June, or like
Yeah.
even earlier before the NBA playoffs started, they get a lot more love.
Yeah, definitely.
But keep an eye out. So there's our picks for the Stanley Cup playoffs. We're going to transition here to baseball a little bit. Zach's been our wild card, but I mean, a lot of baseball knowledge coming out of Zach and myself too. I love talking about baseball. Now that we're home for the summer, I get to follow it up a
Yeah,
lot more than
exactly.
I normally would be able to. But Minnesota Twins, we're going to talk about them some more because they're still the best team in baseball. And I mean, we were doubting them last time you were on a little bit, kind of saying they weren't going to be able to keep it up. It's only been a couple more weeks, but I mean, they're really not showing too many signs of slowing down.
They actually improved. They've
Yeah.
gotten hotter.
And like it's tough. I mean, no, like not taking any credit away, but the AL Central is probably the weakest division
One
in
of the
the
weakest,
American
yeah.
League. They have an 8.5 game lead ahead of the Indians right now, who are in second place. And I mean, the Indians were my pick to win the division. Pretty much everybody else is like they were the favorites to come out of that division. They have been for the last several years. They have the pieces in place, but the Twins are just completely sweeping through under everybody's radar and just coming out and just really just lighting it up. I mean, I'm going to read. I got some numbers here. So Edwin Rosario, the left fielder, is currently leading the team in home runs and RBIs. 15 home runs, right up there with like the league leaders who are about like 18 or 20. 42 RBIs leading the team. But this team is just a very like well-rounded group. Like everybody's contributing. They have 4 players right now who are in double-digit home runs. So a lot of power coming from like all like aspects of the lineup. Polanco, the shortstop, is leading the American League in batting average, being second overall in the league behind Bellinger,
That's
who is
insane
still
stuff.
just completely lighting
Yeah.
it up. I think I looked at it was 386, I think is what he was batting, 86 or 96, so right below 400. Still ridiculous, but yeah, Polanco second in the league, first in the American League. And Martin Perez, their main ace starting pitcher, is right now third in the American League in wins. So he
That's
has 7
surprising.
wins right now, which, yeah, that just goes to show that the offense is backing up the pitching staff. So it's really good to see. Their bullpen has just been crazy lately as well. It's really cool. I mean, it's something that not a lot of people expected. I mean, how long do you think they'll be able to keep this up now? I'll ask you this 2 weeks later now. Do you
Yeah.
think they'll be able to keep it up? What's your take?
Honestly, I think they could.
Yeah.
I know I said it earlier they can't, but like they just. It's been 2 months almost in the season. They still haven't really slowed down. They've gotten better each game.
Exactly.
And they're on pace to beat the Yankees record set 2018 with 324 home runs. Like
Yeah,
it's a
like
complete
it's
team. That's insane.
It's a team basis. Like
Yeah.
their league leader I mentioned, like Rosario has 15, and I'm not gonna say only 15, but like it's not like he's carrying the team in like
Yeah.
their home run total. Like it's a group effort all around the board, from the bullpen, from the pitching staff, from just the up and down 1 through 9 batting order. Like everybody's contributing. The pitching staff is benefiting from the better offense. And that's the biggest thing. Like they've always had a pretty good bullpen. Their pitching staff is a very good under the radar pitching staff the last few years. It's been the offense.
Yeah,
so if
it's
the
been
offense can
struggling,
keep up, Nelson Cruz is on that
I
team
love
now. So
Nelson Cruz.
if he can pick it up, get back those power numbers that we know from Nelson Cruz back with the Rangers and with the Mariners.
Yep.
I mean, that's just a whole nother element, because like I haven't mentioned him because he hasn't really performed like up to expectations. I don't think he is getting up there in age a little bit. He's slowed down with the Mariners the last couple years, but
Still like 25 plus homers.
yeah,
though.
I mean, I think if he picks it up, that's just another huge
Honestly,
bat
yeah.
to that lineup. If he can get some consistent hits, consistent power numbers back up there, so that'll be huge. I'm excited for it regardless, but I'm just excited to be watching more baseball. The MLB season is in full swing now with the NBA
awesome.
Finals, Stanley Cup wrapping up in the next week or two. It's going to be great. I'm excited for the rest of the summer to talk a lot more baseball with you, man. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, again, appreciate you having you on,
Yeah, of
talking
course.
a little Stanley Cup, talking some baseball. A lot of variety. Zach, our wild card, coming on the podcast again. So we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to take a quick break one more time, transition here a little bit. We're having another new element back onto the podcast, being the special guest segment. So we have a guy named Drew Williams coming on the podcast, expressed some interest. So we're going to talk a lot of basketball, a lot of finals previews. We're just going to talk about a lot of different aspects throughout the NBA. So we'll take a quick break and we'll get Drew here on the podcast, guys. So we'll be right back.
We live in a world alongside others on a continuous pursuit. Money, love, happiness.
Yet while on such a similar path, we often neglect the importance of real conversations about difficulties and challenges we are facing.
These are things we all experience, yet we let divide us.
We bring you a space for those unfiltered, unscripted conversations on difficult topics that tend to carry consequences socially.
Without a stitch of dishonesty,
Without a stitch of judgment,
we are Without a Stitch.
All right, everybody, we are back. So another new element we're adding to the show. We're going to bring back the special guest element. So that's kind of how we started out the podcast. Every week we'd have a special guest in there. We're going to bring that back and just kind of mess around with it and see how we do it. So we have Drew Williams in the studio with us here today. Again, adding that new element. We had the other element that we did earlier with like the phone call interviews. We had Pete, who is a Heated Sports member, in there, but we want to hear from you guys. So if anybody is interested in like calling in on the show, we would love to have you just talk about whatever you want to talk about. I mean, we're open to any questions or topics you would have. So just kind of talking one-on-one with me, I think that's a really cool idea and a cool thing that we're able to add now. So, Drew, I'll let you take it away, man. Just go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
So my name's Drew. Just graduated as a senior at Country Day. All-state team, LL All-Star, 1,000-point scorer. Brought a district championship for the first time in school history. So, I guess I know a little bit about basketball.
Just a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Also in the process of launching my own clothing line, Tulip Apparel, which is aimed to help and motivate kids living in poverty, struggling with those kind of things, to motivate them to do better and kind of get outside of those restrictions.
Very nice, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll say a lot of stuff going for you. Yeah, like a little bit of basketball knowledge maybe. So, yeah, I mean, that's obviously what we're going to talk about a lot here. So, again, yesterday, Game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals, Kawhi and the Raptors take over. Like, what was your initial reaction? Like, when you basically, like, when they were down 0-2, first of all, like, a lot of people were kind of counting them out, go off just to win 4 straight. Like, is that something that you were surprised about, or, like, did you kind of expect the Raptors to bounce back the way they did?
Honestly, with Kawhi, I feel like I expected that, definitely with going back to when they played the Heat in the finals, and Kawhi really stepped up, and he was young at that time.
Oh, yeah, I'll say that's like a up and coming Kawhi.
Yeah, exactly. And for him to step up against LeBron, arguably one of the greatest players of all time, to step up and guard him and have that, that like confidence to do that, and then to like hold Giannis to like shooting like under 30% inside 4 feet.
Yeah,
like, that's
yeah,
ridiculous.
I'll say he was obviously be able to drive in the paint and score just the way that he always has been. But yeah, shooting the ball definitely not where he was in the regular season.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, so we'll get right into it. Yeah. I mean, this was my finals pick from the get-go. I mean, it's more of an obvious one. I think a lot of people were picking the Warriors and then picking like the Bucks or the Raptors to probably make it to match up with them. But do you give the Raptors a chance? I guess is like the most obvious question, because most people are picking the Warriors, I would say. But like, do you think the Raptors have any shot in this series to at least make it a series in general, or to maybe even win it and shock the world?
I mean, the way they're playing right now, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they snuck out a game or two at the Bay. Honestly, with like Van Fleet and Kawhi, they're just like playing out of their minds right now.
Yeah.
Especially Kawhi, with him adding that scoring element to his game, he's just elevated so much higher than I think any player in the league, and he's my favorite player in the league right now, best player to me.
Yeah, I would say I mentioned that in the beginning, like a little hot take. I mean, he has to be in the conversation of best player on the planet right now.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, everybody, like, they'll knock LeBron, aging LeBron, injured this past year, whatever. But I mean, you have to put Kawhi in that conversation up there now. Just with this type of playoff run, like, we haven't seen that since LeBron in that year when the Cavs upset the Warriors a few years ago. And I mean, he's just completely carrying this team. I thought before the playoffs started, before this last matchup, he has a good supporting cast around him, but I don't think they've really stepped up as much as people would have expected them to, or what Kawhi probably would wanted them to. But these last few games, they definitely pulled it together. Van Fleet, since having his son after game 2, just completely lighting it up off the bench. And Siakam stepping up big last game, but he's going to need to step up in the finals, I think, for sure. He was the clear number 2 with the struggling Kyle Lowry. I think Siakam definitely needs to step up. Kyle Lowry, clearly excited. You saw the excitement on his face after winning yesterday, going to the NBA Finals. He's surprised a lot of people. I mean, that's been the knock on Kyle Lowry, just never able to step up in the playoffs, always choking against LeBron, this, that, and the other. But I think he's been pretty consistent this series. I mean, were you impressed with what you saw from him?
I wouldn't say I'm impressed, because with him being an all-star, I feel like he can still do better.
It's expected.
Yeah, exactly. For him to play. Yeah, so I don't know, but he has, I guess, stepped up from what he did last year, which was absolutely nothing.
Yeah, literally, yeah. It would have been tough to do worse than that, for sure.
Yeah, and then to see the first series, the playoffs, he kind of struggled too, and everyone's like, "Oh, here we go again." Yeah. But then I feel like him seeing Kawhi not giving up, and Kawhi just going so hard, just kind of gave him that motivation, all right, bet, we can do this.
Yeah. Now it's so weird, because even after just the place just going crazy after they win, and Kawhi is just straight face, head down in the interview. What do you take with Kawhi's personality? Do you like it? Do you wish you could see some more excitement out of him? I mean, you saw some emotion after he hit the 4 bounce game winner against the Sixers last round, but I mean, other than that, it's just hardly any emotion there whatsoever. Do you like that about his game? It's something different, or would you want to see some more emotion out of him?
I would like to see some more emotion, but it's definitely something that I like. It's something different.
I'll say it's a very unique aspect, especially in the NBA. It's a lot of personality.
Exactly,
so
exactly.
It's weird.
And with him, I'm pretty sure his dad was shot or something.
Really?
Like that. Yeah, when he was a kid, his dad was shot and killed. His dad owned a car wash or something like that. He was shot and killed, and his mom's he really hasn't been the same since.
It's just
so I feel like that's just a testament to that. He's just going all out.
Just very internal. It seems definitely there's emotion there, but it's just very internal, keep to himself. And I mean, I definitely don't mind that, but I mean, even after yesterday, give me something. But no, I can't knock on him. I mean, I'm more of an internal. I'll keep to myself a lot, so I really can't knock him too much. But real quick before we transition, what are you thinking? Finals pick? How many games? Who's winning? What do you think?
I'd say Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6?
Yeah.
I'll say. I mean, I'm definitely going with the Warriors. I got to stick with my pick. I said Warriors in 5, from the get-go, so I'm sticking with Warriors in 5. It would, again, if the supporting cast steps up, I could definitely see the Raptors making it a competitive series.
I think they're going to put up more of a fight than people think.
I mean, I'm excited to see it. I mean, I would rather see a good series than me be right. Exactly. I mean, I'm all for being right if they win in 5 games. But I mean, give me game 6, game 7. I would love to see that. Definitely. Anybody to actually compete with this Warriors team. So it's interesting. But I'm going to transition here a little bit, because I feel like, especially you being a new guest, we literally just met each other a few minutes ago. It's wrong if we don't talk about LeBron a little bit. So LeBron's somehow still in the media, not being in the playoffs. A lot of news kind of spiraling. There was an article that broke out with his quote-unquote wish list for free agency of players he wants to join him in LA next year. I'm going to give you a couple names and just give me a reaction, even just a percent chance of it actually happening. So I don't think really there's a shot at these happening, but we'll see. So first one on his wish list, Kawhi Leonard. At any shot he chooses the Lakers over the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers are the big one that people are kind of pointing to. No shot of a Kawhi LeBron team up. What about Jimmy Butler? LeBron really likes Jimmy Butler, apparently.
I think Jimmy will stay.
You think so?
I think he'll stay.
You think it's going to take a max for him to stay?
I think it definitely will, though. Yeah.
I mean, after how he played in the playoffs, I'm fine with Sixers giving him a max. I mean, he definitely deserved it, or will deserve it. I mean, he's going to get a max regardless. I think so. It's just a matter of if he loves Philly and wants to stay in Philly, or if he'd rather go play with LeBron. But I mean, I've heard of even not just recently. I've heard for a while that apparently LeBron is really eyeing up Jimmy Butler. But I mean, that's just a whole nother transition. I mean, clearly that team is not as good as this current Sixers team if he would decide to stay. So that's kind of just going to be depending on what Jimmy wants. Last one here, so just random news. Apparently someone did a little Photoshop work on Instagram, threw a Lakers jersey on Kyrie Irving, and LeBron liked it. So LeBron interacted with it. Of course, as soon as that happens, people are going crazy. LeBron wants a Kyrie reunion. What do you think the odds of that happening actually are?
I think they're kind of likely, honestly.
You think so?
Kyrie's just not happy. I think that was pretty obvious this season. They didn't even go nearly as far as everyone thought they would. They were supposed to be the team coming out of the East, and that was just went to complete trash.
Yeah,
so,
it's just. I mean, he was like 1 foot out the door this whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
I think. Like there was just so much like off the field stuff, mainly surrounding Kyrie, but just like that team in general. So not a good situation. I mean, it would be interesting to see him and LeBron team up. Like the media would just completely eat that up.
Oh yeah.
But like, I mean, he ended on pretty like bad terms. I mean, he basically like wanted out of Cleveland, wanted away from LeBron. But I mean, clearly like reports coming out that they have patched things up.
Yeah.
Apparently, how legit that is, we really don't know. But yeah, apparently they're back. They're boys again. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I think, out of the 3, that one's very likely. I think there's a chance for Jimmy. I think if Jimmy doesn't stay, I think the Lakers are probably that top choice, especially if the Lakers and LeBron are already prepared to offer him a max. I think there's a decent shot there. Kawhi, absolutely not. I think the Clippers for sure. I mean, I think he really likes Doc Rivers. I think the Clippers they're like the lesser team in LA, and I mean, like we were just talking about with Kawhi's personality, like he likes that. I don't think he wants to be in the limelight, in the LA limelight. Going to the Clippers, a very good established, very good like playoff team. They competed with the Warriors there in that first round a little bit, so it'll be interesting. Do you give Kawhi any chance to stay? Win or lose in this finals, I mean, they're making a run. Like they weren't out in the first round or two. Like they're making a run. They're in the finals. Yeah. Any shot he stays?
I think there is. But I feel like they'd have to add some pieces over the summer in order for him to stay.
Yeah,
like I feel like he's not going to be able to keep on doing this year in, year out.
I'll say like it's tough. Like this is like a legendary, like historic level run.
Definitely.
Like this isn't something that he's just gonna just be able to just all right, playoff time.
Yeah,
let's get into it. Like just take it to another gear like this. I mean, like not taking any credit away from what he's doing, but I mean they're not going to be able to keep this up every single year. Especially, I think like the East is going to stay competitive. Like the Bucks and the Sixers aren't going anywhere, and if the Knicks land a couple key free agents, like the Knicks are going to be in the conversation too. It's going to be interesting. But any last like points or anything you want to throw out there, man? Like anything you want to throw at me, or like I feel like we hit a lot of the main topics. But anything else that you had on your mind coming in here?
Yeah. Your opinions on Zion?
Yeah. What about him? I mean, I think. I don't like that he's going to New Orleans. Because, I mean, clearly he's going to New Orleans. I think he's going to just completely rejuvenate that franchise. Clearly, like, the fan base and everybody took a hit. Anthony Davis wants out. I think he's still going to want out. So he's gone. I think he's going to be a great player. I mean, I don't think, like, people are saying he's already, like, a top 30, top 50 player in the league. I think that's overstating it a little bit. I mean, I'm all for, like, getting on the hype train with this kind of stuff. Like, he's definitely, like, a generational prospect for sure. But I think it might take him a little bit. The Pelicans have, like, they have Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is going to be a nice supporting piece.
He's a good veteran.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's going to be, I'm curious to see what they get for Anthony Davis. Because, like, my theory that I threw out last week, I think they'll trade him to the Knicks. And the Knicks are going to give them a good amount of draft picks, including that 3rd overall pick. Getting that 3rd overall pick means they're taking his boy RJ Barrett, and like the duo from Duke's going to go to New Orleans, and I think that's going to be a really cool situation. The media, just the NBA, like fan base, and everybody's going to eat that up, and I think that puts the team back on the map regardless.
Definitely.
So I mean, I think it wouldn't surprise me if it takes a year or two for like that duo to actually step up into like all-star level or anything like that. But I mean, what do you think, dude? Like, do you agree with me a little bit? Like, do you think he's going to just go like right away, just completely go nuts, or what do you think?
Zion's like a pretty humble kid. Like, he shows a lot of emotion, but none of it's really like out of source. His talent.
It's nothing too like arrogant or anything like that. Yeah.
His talent is just like ridiculous. Like I've watched a lot of basketball. I just never see someone dominate like college basketball like that. Like it's like a grown man.
I mean, everybody compares him to LeBron, but obviously LeBron didn't play in college.
Exactly.
Like, seeing a college talent like this, it's been
insane.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that he like comes out the first year and just like murders a lot of teams.
Lights it up.
Like LeBron did his rookie year.
I'll say LeBron carried that team like to the finals, like in the beginning of his career, like being like the main focal point of that team.
Definitely.
Just completely lighting it up as a young prospect out of high school. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, regardless, I don't think there's too much pressure on him to perform well this first year. He's not gonna have to carry this team to the playoffs. They're gonna add some pieces around him. Clearly, he's gonna be the focal point of that franchise for the foreseeable future. So it's gonna be pretty cool. But yeah, man, we'll wrap it up there. I really appreciate you having on, showing interest in the podcast. So again, guys, so we got Drew here on the podcast this week. Again, we're gonna try to make this like a weekly segment. So if you're interested in appearing on the podcast, or interested in like calling in on the podcast like we did with Pete, feel free to let us know. We're gonna try to implement this stuff in every week. Again, I mentioned the articles. We have our website, www.heated-sports.com. Articles coming at you every week there. And our social media is at Twitter and Instagram, at @heatedsports_ on both of those. So be sure to give those a follow. We have content coming all throughout the week, so be sure to check those out. And again, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here next Tuesday night. So peace out, guys. Have a good rest of your week.